Gras. Welcome to Passion Time. I'm here with Karen Love. Karen is a director of a major international accounting firm. It's called PKF Texas. And she's here to talk about mentoring women. She has made it very much a goal in her life to help other young women and women in general succeed in the business world and in life. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And my first question again is, how did you find your passion and how are you living your passion?
Well, and I think that I have shared with others that it comes in stages, and the fact that the passion that you have now is probably not going to be the passion that you have in the future. It may parallel, but it might be a little bit different. So I think you just kind of keep your eyes open and be sure that you're listening for wisdom and then following it.
Very good, very good. Now, you consider mentoring women something very important in your life, and why is that?
Well, I think that when I look at where I am now, in the stage of my life and in my mature tenure, if you will, and I look back at the people that helped me, I had many people help me get to where I am now. And it's been both male and female. In two of my positions, particularly in the accounting firm, it were male sponsors that helped me to get where I am. Currently the president of the accounting firm where I am an owner, he actually was my sponsor, and we know the difference between a sponsor and a mentor. You know, a sponsor is the one that's going to advocate for you when you're not in the room. Mentor is somebody that you're watching and emulating, if you will. And so Kenneth Guidry, the president of my firm, actually responded to my request that in 5 years, if you're not going to consider me for an owner, do not hire me because I will not be happy here. And so he acted as my advocate and my sponsor when I wasn't in the private board meetings that the firm was having. So
interesting.
Pays off.
Can you share some thoughts on encouraging young women who are starting out?
Right. Well, and it is so funny because I'm surrounded by young professionals in my succession planning, as you will. And I think that there are some young people that are inclined to look for mentors and come to like-minded people. So the people that are on my team, it seems that we have burrowed them out, if you will, and they are somebody that's been attracted to the kind of mentoring and the kind of career path that I've had. I didn't come from the accounting industry. I came from a completely different industry, and the people that have come to work with me have come from outside the accounting industry, so they're bringing in newness and uniqueness into the marketplace. So do not be discouraged if the career that you have aspiration for or that you're currently in isn't what you went to school for.
Right, right. And you talk about be flexible with your career path.
Yes.
Isn't that sort of something that we have to think about, because young people are now changing careers many times.
Yes.
We used to not have to do that.
Absolutely. And I think I was sharing with you earlier in our conversation that there are people on my team that have been with me 10 years, but that started out in their 20s and are now in their 30s. And so it just depends on their background, their aspirations. If you're making their career path interesting, you're completely challenging them all the time, so they'll want to stay. Many millennials, if we know the statistics, are moving very, very frequently. And I can't account for that, but I do know that that's not been my experience with the young professionals that I'm surrounding myself with.
Okay. Let's talk about goal setting. You say that goal setting is essential for success. Why is that?
Well, I think that you've got to think about where you're going in order to make the steps very, very clear. And it doesn't have to be exact. I knew that I wanted to be successful and I wanted to be an Allied store buyer. My aspiration at that time was to be the youngest buyer that Ty Gidry had ever had, and that's a Dallas store. And thank the Lord, I did achieve that accomplishment. It's just I've always been very, very driven in that area. But I have to say again, I did not do it alone. There were people that helped me, and I just don't think we ever get to where we are without people helping us. And I think we have to be very gracious and have gratitude in our hearts.
Absolutely. You talk about that. You talk about sharing credit, and
yes.
You know, especially in the TV world where you seem to be the one that's out there. There are, look in this room,
exactly
4 or 5 people.
Exactly.
that help you, and
Right.
they don't get the credit. You have to give them the credit, because
Yes.
nobody knows that they're behind the scenes.
That's right. And I think that sells a lot for the individual, you, Patricia, that are doing that. And I just think that it is a real core integrity characteristic that you have to have when you share credit with somebody. I don't think you lose your power, but
No.
I think that you just admit that, hey, I needed help to do this, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think it does help
Yeah.
you succeed.
It does.
You also, and I think this is really interesting to me, volunteering. I always tell young people, volunteer, meet people. Tell me why that's important for a career path.
Yeah, it's very important because people do look at your bio. They associate on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever it is that you're doing in our bios these days. What are your passions? What are you interested in? For example, I got very involved early on in my career with the Heart Association and ended up being on the state board, and was very fortunate to be given an honor of the Volunteer of the Year because they were giving a research grant based on something that a doctor was doing, and when you're a volunteer, they'll put that in your name.
Wow.
So it was a fabulous passion for me because my family has heart disease, and my father had just had open heart surgery, and there were so many people that helped me through that process that I felt like I needed to learn more and to pay it back. And it wasn't just verbiage or a cheesy statement. It was something that I really felt strongly about. And so I met with a man that had heart disease in his family, and he said, come to a meeting tonight. You didn't know what kind of meeting. And it was the Heart Association up in a suburb of Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up chairing the Heart Walk that very season.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was that was the beginning of my volunteer passion for that.
Okay, now, there was something that I really like what you said, especially like when the times that we're living where a lot of our leaders just lie and lie and lie, and it's okay, and people still believe them and vote for them, and you talk about, and I feel very strong, integrity and dependability.
That's right.
As characteristics that we should have
Yes.
in our lives to succeed as people and as business people.
Sure. And we're human. We all mess up. And so when we do, it's the hardest thing in the world for some. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned to do it more readily, is to admit it. And
Right.
then you learn from it and go on. And now I know what I learned and all the different steps that I've taken where I had missteps have made me what I am today. And I embrace that. And so I would encourage young people to embrace that it's okay to have some failures. You just get it and move on and use it to make yourself better.
Yeah, well, I have so many failures. I'll be the queen of failures. All right, Karen Love, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the work that you do with young women. I think we all need to get involved and help young women, right? Thank you so much for watching Pastor Tom, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Cambia tu vida. Cambia tu vida. Cambia tu vida.